Dan Perry joins us live now from Tel Aviv. Dan is the former chief of the Associated Press in Europe, Africa, and Middle East. Thank you. It's good to have you on the program, Dan. Look, the language of the Memorandum of Understanding is such that, according to this MOU, Israel is not supposed to be in southern Lebanon, much less be fighting in southern Lebanon. Do you think the Israeli military will respect this?
Depends on the amount of pressure that the Americans are prepared to bring to bear. And I suppose because we see Trump responding to Iranian pressure, it therefore depends on how much Iran is going to insist and use this as leverage during the negotiation. I have trouble seeing Israel pulling out of the buffer zone in southern Lebanon without really having Trump putting the hammer down, as long as Hezbollah remains armed and potentially a threat for cross-border incursion. That's the very reason why they are in South Lebanon. And in general, from Israel's perspective, there's a lot of concern because this is viewed as a capitulation that basically casts aside all of the war goals of Israel and America both, throwing not just Israel under the bus, but also Lebanon, which is aligned with Israel in its desire to see Hezbollah disarmed.
And can Benjamin Netanyahu enforce this? You said it depends on how much pressure Donald Trump will put on Israel. But the Israeli Prime Minister, of course, is Benjamin Netanyahu. He has made no secret of the fact that he intended to remain in southern Lebanon, but now he might get an edict from the U.S. president. The U.S. president has signed this deal with Iran. It's right here in writing that Israel isn't supposed to fight and that Lebanon's territorial integrity is to be respected. That would mean, right, if we look at those words, that would mean withdrawing from southern Lebanon, something Netanyahu said he wouldn't do. If he now decides to go ahead with this deal because the U.S. president has essentially told him to, can he enforce that?
Well, of course he can enforce it. He can order the army out and the army would pull out, but it would be politically devastating for him from every direction. He's supposedly a right-wing prime minister. His base doesn't want this, but even the left doesn't want it. The center doesn't want it, and I would dare say the Israeli Arabs don't want it. It's conceivable parts of Lebanon don't want it. So he faces elections in a couple of months, and he'll be in a quandary, as you suggest. Capitulation would make him look bad. Non-capitulation, if the U.S. is insisting enough, would be impossible at the end of the day. Such are the wages of putting all your eggs in a basket of Trump, who many people told Netanyahu is not a true friend, definitely not a loyal ally of Israel or of anyone else. And when his interests point in a different direction, he's going to do what he's going to do, and he's going to be untruthful about the actual reasons and the consequences. And Netanyahu is paying the piper now for his over-tight alliance with Trump after he alienated the Europeans, alienated the U.S. Democrats, and more. It's a difficult situation for Israel. But to your question, can he enforce a pullout? Of course he can. It'll be very unpopular in Israel, and we'll have to see then if there's any mechanism for the Lebanese armed forces to actually take over the border area and prevent Hezbollah from returning and once again threatening Israel. But the bigger issue is disarming Hezbollah, because Hezbollah is way to the north of Lebanon now in the Bekaa Valley. Israel's not going to march up there. Hilariously, Trump is now musing about Syria taking care of Hezbollah. That would be tough for Lebanon. That has not forgotten the Syrian occupation of much of their country that ended only 20 years ago. So I kind of think Lebanon is going to face a very difficult choice of going to the UN Security Council and asking for assistance from an international force. I don't see what else can happen.
A question on domestic politics. How does this impact Netanyahu's personal political future? Because he is running for re-election. They're just around the corner in the next few months. He had styled himself as Mr. Security for many years now, and he is likely to be bound by this deal, as we've said. So how's that going to work out for him when he presents his track record to voters?
Very badly. Netanyahu's in a terrible political position. The Mr. Security title that you ascribed to him was always a little bit farcical. It previously applied to Ariel Sharon and Yitzhak Rabin a little more plausibly. But yeah, Netanyahu had largely kept the peace with various cycles of violence in Gaza against Hamas, which people understand. But I mean, currently he's basically bet on a 3-year forever war, pretty much, that hasn't achieved its aims. It's weakened Hezbollah, weakened Hamas, and I suppose until this war weakened the regime in Iran, but it hasn't destroyed any of them. And his main selling point to voters is less Mr. Security than Mr. America. His positioning has been that of a brilliant orator and perfect American English who knows how to manipulate the American system and will ensure that America's by Israel's side. Now he's not only lost, as I say, the U.S. Democrats, and it may be difficult for Israel should they return to power, but Trump has done something that no American president ever did. Israel always had a certain degree of strategic dependency on the United States, but Democratic presidents and Republican presidents were respectful, at least in public. And here we have Trump presenting Netanyahu as a puppet, and cursing him out and saying he'll do whatever I want him to do, and presenting Israel as a country with no agency. It is disgraceful, and Netanyahu has now signed on to that blow. I see grim tidings ahead for Netanyahu in the October election, where already, even before the war, he was down by what translates into about 15% of the vote. It'll be difficult to envision how he reverses that when pretty much 100% of the people in Israel view this as a setback, because the regime has been strengthened. It's been strengthened because Israel and the U.S. entered this war without a plan for the inevitable closing of the Strait of Hormuz, which handed the Iranians the possibility of blackmailing the world into a $300 billion slush fund and an unfreezing of all assets and an ending of all sanctions, which is what's promised if the 60 days ends successfully, something the Obama JCPOA never did. And if you read the speech that Trump gave in May 2018 when he pulled out of the JCPOA very idiotically, you look at the reasons for it. It has to do with how he gave Iran some money. He's giving Iran manifold times more money, and how he didn't handle the proxy terrorist network or the missiles, which at this point no one's even talking about. Never mind the complete betrayal of the Iranian people, who Trump promised that he would send help that's on its way, who he told on the first day of the war they'd get their country back. Instead of them getting their country back, the regime is getting hundreds of billions of dollars back, badly demoralizing the opposition and suppressing the hopes for a better dawn all over the Middle East.
Dan Perry, former chief of Associated Press in Europe, Africa, and Middle East, thank you very much for joining us from Tel Aviv this hour. Thank you.